G'day guys and gal, you may have heard some spicy lore that just dropped, that Tyberos the Redwake, chapter master of the Space Sharks, was seriously injured. His armor torn apart and he's fighting for his life. If you read between the lines, this is basically code for Tyberos is about to become a Primaris, thus an even chonkier boy, which also means he will get a new model, which, thank God, his old one sucks ass. Now I could pretend to be Valrak and somehow manage to make a nearly 10-minute video about this brief piece of lore, but he's already done that, so instead I thought it would be cool to just look at how each of the main chapter masters we all know and love became Primaris Marines. After all, their circumstances for Ascension was not always a clean surgery done in their own time. Often it was the only solution, beyond a dreadnought that would save them from their mortal wounds. Before we get started, while it would be a tactical move to promote the major mini Shark Marines, considering the topic of this video, after all, if there is a new Tyberos model coming, you'll need some of his brothers to back him up. However, instead, I want to talk about Natty Plus. The reason I built Natty Plus from the ground up, instead of just taking the easy route and drop shipping, is because the philosophy behind Natty Plus was supplements that work. Every ingredient we use was put under maximum scrutiny and was cross-referenced between scientific studies. I created supplements that I wished existed, and that is why we have the blood work to prove our supplements actually work. You like drinking but your liver doesn't? The liver support can bring your liver enzymes from dangerous levels to healthy levels. You like sugary, delicious, high-carb food, but your insulin and blood glucose is creeping up, putting you at risk of diabetes? The blood sugar management can knock that shit right back down into healthy athlete levels. Your estrogen is getting too high because you're taking TRT or HCG? No worries. Estrogen reduction can bring you back into the sweet spot. You have low testosterone, we have multiple people getting insane increases on the ultimate testosterone support. The reason why Natty Plus works so well and other supplement brands never produce the blood work despite all their bullshit AI generated ad claims is because we only use a science-backed multi-pathway formula, meaning we target almost every single potential issue that could cause the poor biomarkers like low testosterone or bad cholesterol and so on. I know my subs are expensive, but that is because it is expensive to make them, mixing all those active ingredients in their most bioavailable forms. But it still is actually cheaper than buying all of those active ingredients separately. The good news is we're running a 25% off Valentine's sale. Just use code Valentine25. This stacks with sub and save and bundle discounts. So if you wanted to try a supplement that actually fucking works, now is the best time. Link is below. Today we'll go over the wounding of Tyberos, what this means for him and how the other cool chapter masters became Primaris Marines. Let's get into it. Okay, so obviously starting with the big Shark Daddy. In the new Space Shark short story, that's a fucking tongue twister, Tyberos is collecting a tithe on a Mechanicus Forge world as per their agreement to rearm the chapter. However, the tech priest he was dealing with was secretly a little fucking chaos bitch that had joined the Dark Mechanicum, so he unleashed a force of Rust Stalkers on Tyberos, which are more or less elite Mechanicus assassins. Tyberos kills the Rust Stalkers, but his armor is torn apart and he himself almost dies. Now the short story doesn't then just say, Tyberos becomes Primaris. For all we know, he could die of his wounds or become a dreadnought. However, GW aren't dumb fucks that like to subvert expectations by ruining the narrative or characters. Looking at you, Game of Thrones. They are aware Tyberos is extremely popular, as are the Space Sharks. They are also aware Tyberos' model sucks ass and is no longer in production, whilst he also has some of the best third-party minis out there, like Shark Daddy, obviously. So it's the biggest no-brainer on the planet to release a new Tyberos mini, and why not do it in Primaris style? It makes sense, Tyberos would be too busy and traditional to elect to have the Primaris surgery voluntarily, so doing it out of necessity fits the bill more. In a similar fashion, Titus walked off a Carnifex arm through his chest with Primaris surgery, so Tyberos should be able to come back from some little Mechanicus fucks in a similar manner. This begs the question, how large will this make Tyberos? Well, Tyberos was a head taller than his elite Terminator Honor Guard and is always described as absolutely fucking massive. The Honor Guard would have been around 9 feet tall in their armor, being from a chapter based on Islanders, who are big fucking units to begin with, being the chosen of the chapter, which also just makes them larger due to the rule of cool, and Terminator armor adds notable height. So that makes Tyberos around 10 feet or slightly more. However, Primaris are about 15% taller than Firstborn Marines, so applying that to Tyberos, if he goes through the surgery, he'll end up being about 11 to 12 feet tall, which puts him at the low end of the Primarch height range, aka an absolute fucking Goliath. I really hate how people have framed Tyberos' height thing as stupid meme lore. I've just done the maths for you, and he is massive, and he's about to become even bigger. It is not unheard of for the occasional Space Marine to be retardedly large. Alexis Pollux unnerved Gilliman during the Heresy, as Gilliman didn't have to look down to meet his eyes. Other Space Marines likewise are very large, 9 to 10 feet. Think about it like this. Imagine you turned Kid Shaquille O'Neal into a Space Marine. The dude is over 7 feet as a mortal. Space Marines gain roughly 30% extra height on average from becoming a Space Marine versus if they stayed as a mortal, so Shaq would end up being over 9 feet tall out of armor as a Space Marine Firstborn. Then adding armor and the Primaris upgrade, he'd be over 10 or even 11 feet. There are plenty of people on Earth over 7 feet tall. If we expand into a galactic scale, there would be trillions of them, with millions or billions at 8 feet or taller as genetic freaks. So there being the occasional Tyberos walking around is not only lore-friendly, but inevitable. TLDR, Ligma balls, Tyberos is huge. But yeah, that is the mother of all getting sidetracked, but basically, I think we will see Tyberos as a Primaris very soon, and we can see how GW ends up scaling him. Next up, we have Dante. Dante wasn't super stoked about becoming a Primaris. The meme that Dante just wants to fucking die isn't a meme at all. The dude craves death more than I crave a Latina-only orgy. He only resists death because his literal dead dad briefly returns from beyond the veil to tell him not to neck himself. During the devastation of Baal, Dante gave it his all, killed the Swarm Lord, and was brutally wounded in return. He was only holding on by sheer will given to him by Sanguinius, and despite not really wanting to become a Primaris to survive, he did it out of duty and a promise to Sanguinius. Thus he returned, physically reinvigorated but still very depressed. See, the Primaris physiology is superior to the Firstborn, and the surgery to become a Primaris can save their lives in emergency situations as it contains 3 new organs. The first 2 just make the Marine bigger and stronger, however the third organ activates an emergency life support system, allowing the Marine to push themselves beyond death in a final act of last stand, or in this case, keep them alive long enough for their body to heal itself. It's this third organ, the Belisarian Furnace, which has turned the Primaris surgery into an alternative to Dreadnought interment. Mephiston likewise became a Primaris, however he did so voluntarily. He did have a near-death experience which caused him to merge further with the Dark Angel of Baal, making him even more powerful upon his awakening, and 10 times more scary. However, not every chapter master became a Primaris out of desperation. Sometimes it was strategic. Marnius Calgar elected to have the surgery, being the first Space Marine to do so. See, Gilliman wanted to integrate the Primaris into all the Loyalist chapters, but it literally created a strange class system. These new fancy Marines were seemingly to replace the Firstborn, who had been humanity's defenders for 10,000 years without Primarch support. It caused a shitload of issues, and some chapters even wanted to reject the Primaris. Some even begun a civil war over it. The surgery to turn a Space Marine into a Primaris hadn't been done before, however it would be the solution to the issue, as it meant there would eventually be no Primaris and Firstborn, merely Space Marines. Marnius, as a show of faith and to lead by example, chose to become the first. The surgery fucking sucked, and he died. But he survived, arising as the first to undergo the surgery in this new invigorated form. Soon after this, the surgery was perfected, and now the mortality rate from it is very low. Although it would be hilarious if some absolute Giga Chad fan favorite chapter master underwent the surgery and just bled out on the operating table. Unless it's Tyberos or anyone I like, then that would be shit as. My god, if that's how Kaldor Drago died, I would laugh until I bled. The Dark Angels were very hesitant about the Primaris. They are secretive as shit and now had been flooded with new Marines who had no idea what a Fallen was. This caused quite the ruckus within the chapter, until, unceremoniously, Azrael voluntarily underwent the surgery and came out the other side. At a similar time, the Primaris proved themselves as Dark Angels and were embraced, thus ending the division. Likewise, the Space Wolves were very hesitant about the Primaris as they were not sons of Fenris. However, stories of their bravery and wolf-like nature reached Logan, who decided that the Primaris could do a modified trial of Morkai to bind them with Fenris, thus becoming true Space Wolves. Now, interestingly enough, the new Space Wolf models were not explicitly stated to be Primaris, so we don't actually know 100% if Logan is a Primaris or not. This is a part of GW's overall strategy to just slowly make Space Marines again, instead of Primaris or Firstborn. You can see other evidence of this attitude via the Stern Guard veterans who blurred the line, as well as the new Terminator models just being called Terminators, not Primaris Terminators. Now Logan probably is a Primaris. The surgery is very safe and refined, and those 3 extra organs are handy. However, unless the surgery is specifically used to save the Marine's life, I don't think it will get mentioned as much anymore. It just sort of becomes an assumption. When Gilliman came to the Black Templars, he was pretty concerned about how they would accept the Primaris. After all, they were fanatical to the Emperor. If they deemed something not of the Emperor's design, they would reject it violently. However, Helbrecht is actually somewhat of a conduit for the Emperor's will, and receives accurate visions here and there. He can also sense the vibe pretty well, so he was able to see the Primaris as the Emperor's will and readily accept them. Soon after this, he voluntarily became a Primaris, which made his visions even clearer. Make no mistake, the Emperor was extremely down with the Primaris. Much of Belisarius Caul's work to create the Primaris was literally just finding notes and technologies left behind by the Emperor. Now GW ties in the Primaris lore of chapter masters and characters alongside the release of their new models. Dante became a Primaris the day his Primaris model dropped. Same goes for Azrael, Calgar, and Helbrecht. It's also why we haven't seen any lore regarding Asterion Malok becoming a Primaris yet, despite him being the attack dog of the High Lords and one of the first men to get access to the technology. They will not claim him to be a Primaris while his model is still that of a smaller Firstborn. However, once again, if they follow the trend of the recent Space Wolf refresh, this may be the end of this guy is back as a Primaris and more of a this guy is back because his old model looks fucking shit, but we will see. Tyberos will be the true test. Will GW restrain themselves and only make a small mention to the Primaris surgery saving Tyberos, or will the Warhammer community article prop him up as a giant now that he is a Primaris and specifically highlight the height increase? I hope they do, to be honest. Fuck the haters, give me Primarch sized Tyberos. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up a Natty Plus supplement. 25% off on top of bundle and sub and save discounts. Code Valentine25. Best chance to try and see the difference. Hit the subscribe button, hit the real subscribe button for more girthy content. Join the Discord for more memes and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.